Good morning. Today is Monday, July 28th, 2025. There are two calendar situations which are outwardly similar, but actually quite different. Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, can fall on Shabbos. In that case, the fast day is pushed till Sunday, and that Shabbos is both the 9th of Av and it's Shabbos. And that situation is quite complex and a fascinating subject to understand and to experience. That's not what we have this year. This year, Tisha B'Av falls on Saturday night and Sunday. Shabbos is the 8th of Av. So this year, Tisha B'Av abuts Shabbos. And that leads to some details that I think it's important to review. The major underlying issue is that normally on Erev Tisha B'Av, the afternoon leading into Tisha B'Av, the avelos, the practices of mourning, are even stronger. However, since this year that is Shabbos, the afternoon before Tisha B'Av is Shabbos, we don't have any public forms of mourning on Shabbos. But still, the spirit of Tisha B'Av does seep in to this Shabbos in a couple of ways. One is the custom that this Friday night, when we sing L'Chadodi, we use a special tune. We use the tune of the Kina Elei Tzion Ve'areh, which is a tune that is very strongly associated with Tisha B'Av. We sing it on Tisha B'Av during the Kinos. And using that tune for L'Chadodi very clearly brings the spirit of Tisha B'Av to us. It's an evocative and mournful tune. Normally, L'Chadodi would be an upbeat, happy tune, but this Shabbos, it's this evocative, mournful tune. And the other detail is that the Haftorah for this Shabbos, we use the tune of Eicha, not the normal Haftorah tune. And the subject matter, which is from Sefer Yeshayahu, the prophet Isaiah, is a very serious indictment of the Jewish people, and it is hard to read. Nevertheless, even though it's Shabbos, we read that Haftorah, and again we evoke with the tune of Eicha. Now, normally, on Erev Tisha B'Av, the afternoon before Tisha B'Av, there is a requirement that we are not allowed to study Torah. Only those subjects that are relevant to Tisha B'Av, but just Torah learning, any other subject, is not permitted because Torah learning is the greatest enjoyment. And when a person is in mourning, they forego that special joy of learning Torah. A person who's sitting Shiva also is not allowed to learn Torah, except for what relates to the Shiva. That's on a normal year. This Shabbos, there are a couple of different opinions, but the opinion that we follow is that that rule does not apply. And so we have our regular Shabbos afternoon class, which Rabbi Alex teaches, and that will meet at ADATH at 5:30 p.m. this Shabbos. In a normal year, the Su'uda HaMafsekes, the last meal that we eat before the fast, is a meal of mourning. Each person sits alone. We sit on the floor or on a low chair. The meal consists of bread, hard-boiled egg, which is a food relating to mourning, to Avelos. We've discussed that before. And we have the custom to dip the egg into ashes, again, as a sign of mourning. But none of that applies this year. So we eat Shalshudas, the third Shabbos meal, in the afternoon of Shabbos afternoon. And our sages say, K'su'ura Shlomo b'shaito. As magnificent as Shlomo HaMelech would serve at an opulent festive meal. You have whatever you want. Enjoy meat and fish and wine and whatever it is that you want. And you eat together with your family, with your friends. And you have all the foods that are appropriate for Shabbos. With singing and zmiros. It's a regular Shabbos. However, different than every other Shabbos, we must finish eating and drinking and benching the grace after meals by shkia, by sunset. Here in Montreal, this Shabbos afternoon, sunset is at 8:21 p.m. So that means that even though Shabbos is not over until 9:12 p.m. in Montreal, but from 8:21, we have to finish eating and drinking. And the reason is as follows. Between sunset, shkia, and tseisa kochavim, when it gets dark and the stars are visible, this Shabbos between 8:21 and 9:12, those 50 minutes, that time is called Bein Hashmashos. It's an in-between time. Is that time part of the day before, or is that time part of the next day? And therefore, we look at it as a case of doubt, and we always take the more stringent approach. So, for example, just on a regular Shabbos during the year, we start Shabbos at sunset, a few minutes before sunset, but at the very latest by sunset. But we don't end Shabbos until Tzeitza Kochavim, which is 45, 50, 55 minutes after sunset when it's completely dark. So we're observing Shabbos not for 24 hours, but approximately 25 hours. And the reason for that is that we take those 45, 50 minutes from sunset to dark, and we are stringent on both sides. We're stringent to consider the Shabbos has already started, but we're also stringent to consider on Saturday night that Shabbos is not over until that later time. And therefore, during those 50 minutes, in a normal year, that is when we have to stop eating before Tisha B'Av at sunset. The fast lasts approximately 25 hours, just like Shabbos, just like Yom Kippur, just etc. So it's like it's a suffix. Is it Shabbos or is it Tisha B'Av? So we have to be stringent in both ways. We have to treat it like Shabbos, not to do any work that's prohibited on Shabbos, but we also have to treat it like Tisha B'Av in that we don't eat or drink. And even though I said to you that we don't have any public forms of mourning on Shabbos, however, simply not eating or drinking is not by itself a form of mourning. A person can go for 50 minutes without eating or drinking, and nobody thinks that there's something wrong with them, that they're, in mourning. When 9:12 arrives, that's the time that Shabbos is over in Montreal, we say the words, Baruch hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol. Blessed are you who separates between the holy and the mundane. That's like a short version of Havdalah. We're going to talk about Havdalah later. But any situation, any week, where a person is not going to make or hear Havdalah right away, but they want to be able to do weekday work as soon as Shabbos is over, it's necessary to say those words because we're required to demarcate, to signify that Shabbos is ended. So we just say the words, Baruch HaMavdil Ben Kodesh L'Chol. That's it. Then Shabbos is over. Then we put on our weekday clothes because we're not going to wear Shabbos clothes on Tisha B'Av. We put on our non-leather shoes because we do not wear leather shoes on Shabbos. However, again, we do not do either of these things on Shabbos because to put on weekday clothes on Shabbos is a sign of mourning. To put on non-leather shoes on Shabbos is a sign of mourning. So for those things, we have to wait until Shabbos is over. And then we come to shul. And in most places, Ma'ariv, the evening service for Saturday night, will be a little bit later than usual. So even though Shabbos ends at 9:12, here at ADATH, we will daven Ma'ariv at 9:30. That will give people a chance to end Shabbos, to change their shoes, and to come back to shul for Ma'ariv. So if Ma'ariv is at 9:30, that means that Eicha, reading the Book of Lamentations, will be at about 9:40. What about Havdalah? So it goes like this. After Ma'ariv, but before Eicha, we will hold up a candle and make the bracha Borei Ma'orei Ha'esh. Because making a bracha on the candle is related to the fact that it's Saturday night, and this is Saturday night. And you're allowed to look at a candle and make a bracha. So we do that. But we do not make the bracha on the besamim, because smelling the sweet spices is supposed to make us feel better, and we're not looking to feel better on Tisha B'Av. We're in mourning, so we don't make that bracha at all. And we also don't make the bracha of B'rei Pri HaGofen or the rest of Havdalah because we're not drinking anything tonight. It's a fast day. Rather, on Sunday night, when the fast is over, we break the fast by the paragraph of Havdalah. So what we should do on Sunday night is to first make the bracha over the drink, and preferably it should not be wine. Let's say it's beer. So you make the bracha Shakol Niyeh B'Varo on beer, and then you say the last paragraph of Havdalah, Hamavdil Ben Kodesh L'Chol. The whole paragraph. The other two brachas we don't make. The reason for beer on Sunday night is that in general, the prohibitions of the 9 days continue after Tisha B'Av is over until midday on Monday, the 10th of Av. And the reason for that is as follows. Our sages tell us that the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem, was actually set afire late in the afternoon of the 9th. However, the actual burning of it, the time when it was destroyed and it was falling down, was on the 10th. So our sages ordained that we fast and observe Tisha B'Av on the 9th, but we want to remember that most of the actual destruction took place on the 10th, so we continue those morning practices into midday of the 10th. Rabbi Yosef Rimon writes the following, that this Shabbos we should try to join the sanctity and the holiness of Shabbos to Tisha B'Av, because we are entering the period of mourning of Tisha B'Av filled with the spirit of holiness of Shabbos. And by doing so, we hope and we pray to God that through the merit of mourning the destruction of Jerusalem, we will merit to see it rebuilt soon in our day. And with that, all of the difficulties and challenges that stand in the face of the Jewish people today and every one of us, those difficulties and challenges should be transformed into joy and gladness. My friends, I wish you a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.